Good evening. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous coming into your life for a few moments just to give you some help, some tools, some tips, some techniques to get through and start life after divorce. So I've been doing this work for 21 years actually. And so sometimes still it hurts my heart to hear what people are going through. Especially as recently of hearing of someone who's coming out of an abusive relationship. It's really painful to see what some of all of you are experiencing. And even after 21 years, it still affects me. Realizing all I can do is be there and be present and give you tools, techniques, and help and support. God does the real healing and the real work. And it is such a privilege to be a witness to what he does in people's lives. It is just amazing, really, to watch and to behold. So some of the things that God allows me to do, one of them is to be a divorce coach. A divorce coach is someone who's going to guide you through this process. Now, why would you want a divorce coach? You'd want a divorce coach so you learn how to use your attorney more efficiently. A lot of people panic. They say, I'm going through a divorce. They jump into an attorney's office and the attorney starts rattling off too much information and you get overwhelmed and you don't want to slow him down because he costs $400 an hour, but you still need some understanding. And so that's what I do. If you're in my group, I do it without charge. But a divorce coach is really going to help explain the process to you in a slower manner, a more down-to-earth, non-legal manner, because people beat themselves up because I just don't know. But how could you know? You've never been here before. You've never been here before. You shouldn't know all the ins and outs and the details of going through divorce. So a divorce coach, I really enjoy doing because, again, it helps people use an attorney efficiently. And that's a good thing. That's really a good thing. So something else I'll just throw out there today is my workbook that is a free download. If you go to my website, divorcesupportanonymous.com, you can download this 49 page workbook that prepares you to see your attorney for the first time. So you don't just jump in there unprepared. You have some reference and some basis for talking with him or her. So those are just two of the things I do, but that's not really what I'm going to talk about tonight. Oh, Anthony, I hear you. It's very painful when you leave your wife. There's really nothing easy here. I wish there were, and really that is my goal, is how do we minimize the damage for people? Because there's going to be damage, but how do we minimize that? And keep it less than it has to be. So, topic tonight, which you probably saw, was the mind shift that's necessary in divorce. And where do I begin this? Because it's so deep, and I've got like 4 or 5 points here to help me explain this. But when we are in a relationship, the dynamics are set in such a way. And even if we're in the later part of the relationship, there are dynamics that are set. And those dynamics are usually working together and balancing the workload, taking care of the kids, the finances, the house, all of that. There are certain dynamics. And one of you is more directive than the other, typically. Sometimes it's the man, sometimes it's a woman, but one of you are more directive. And the other person who's not as directive has this just this dynamic or mentality to please the other person, to take care of things, to do what was directed a lot of times. But now you find yourself going through a divorce. And those dynamics that may have worked and allowed you to function in a marriage don't work anymore. They can't work anymore. They're changing. And so there has to be within us, for our own healing and for the other person as well, a mind shift that's necessary. The dynamics are now changing. And some people want to keep part of the dynamics because they work real well. So, like, I'm going to direct you on what to do, and you're going to do it, right? I mean, we did that for 20 years. But here's the problem with that. It's no longer realistic or healthy to be doing that. But we can very naturally comply with what's being told to us to do, or directions are being told, or what we need to do or should do is being told. So we have to have this mind shift of, first of all, we've got to learn to guard our heart, and we have to do some changes and some boundaries, some like instant boundaries we have to put up. And that's not easy, because maybe for 20 years I did everything that my husband wanted me to do, or at least I cooperated with him to work things out. Not to say you were a doormat, but you had these dynamics where, one would kind of lead and the other one would kind of follow along. But now sometimes that person may want to continue to lead. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way anymore. So I have to, and you have to have this mind shift that this person who I was once very intimate with for decades now is an unsafe person to me. And that takes some mental, intentional work inside of us. So what are the things that have to change? Our compliance and cooperativeness. We don't do everything that someone else directs anymore. We stop and we think, does that work for me? What do I think about that? Wasn't necessary for me here. How can I protect myself here in this situation with something that was requested of me? And yeah, you may need to do it that primitive and that elementary of asking yourself those questions, because it's automatic that okay, sure, honey, yes, we'll do that. We'll do it this way. It's like, whoa, can't do it that way anymore. We have to learn some real boundaries and really fast. So no longer are we going to be as compliant and as cooperative as we have been in the past. There's that mind shift. Wait a minute. What do I really think about this? Does this work for me? Is this right for me? Am I guarding my heart here? We're no longer going to be compliant or cooperative. And we have to watch our reactions. How am I going to react to this person? I may really need to pause a lot of times, and think about, how do I want to react right now? How do I need to respond right now? And we'll talk about that in just a minute, of the how to. But it's important for us to have that little stop and think about, how do I want to react? How do I want to react? So our reactions are something we have to change. What we used to do automatically, we have to stop and think about. How do I want to react? How do I want to react that's respecting of myself, respecting of that person? Still want to be respectful. But here's the part that's really hard for a lot of people is respecting themselves and putting up those boundaries, especially now because you're so beaten down from this divorce and the rejection and the betrayal and all that's happened. It's surreal. You are in shock. So we have to be really, and we may even need some help. I hope as you go through a divorce, you do get a good therapist to work with. I really hope you do, because you need someone one-on-one who's going to help you work this out, is going to hear you speak, help you process through, how do I react to this person now? And then we have to ask ourselves, what do I allow in my mind, heart, and soul? Maybe you have come from an unhealthy marriage and an abusive marriage. And it's automatic for you to try to appease this person so you don't get hurt. And some of you, quite frankly, I have so many people in my groups like, I didn't realize I was in an abusive relationship till I got out of it, till I went to therapy, till I really understood what was going on in these dynamics. But now, because of this mind shift, you have to stop, pause. What am I going to allow into my mind and my heart and my soul? Because that toxicity is no longer allowed here. And you do have to put up that boundary, that fence that said, you don't bring it in my space anymore. I will not allow this into my mind, heart, and soul. That is not selfish. It is self-preservation. And there's a huge difference between the two, especially now, as you are so raw going through this process. So that's another question to ask. What do I allow? What do I allow? If they're talking abusive or they're acting abusive, you get the heck out of there. You don't have to put up with that anymore. Number 4. So how do you respond with this person? How do you do that mind shift? You are direct and you're brief. Brief, very important. Use facts only. Only facts. Only facts. I cannot tell you how many people have come back to me and said, Kathy, that was so helpful. That now when I'm corresponding with my former spouse or soon to be former spouse, I don't get into the emotional dance or the emotional abuse in those dynamics. I am direct. I am brief. I am Biff. I wish I had created this because it's so genius. And forgive me, I don't recall who wrote it. It wasn't me. Biff. Remember these initials. You're going to be brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. You don't have to be nasty. You can be friendly. You can be civil. But you're going to be brief. You're going to give facts. You're going to give information. You're going to be friendly, and you're going to be firm. Without apology, without explanation. Stop explaining yourself. Stop apologizing for yourself. This is part of the way that this trauma molds us into a more authentic person. Because we learn, maybe for some of you, for the first time, to stand up for ourselves. Okay, so those are the ones that I have there. Yes, setting boundaries, especially when the husband and wife grew up in the mindset of traditional roles. For example, the wife's expected to follow the husband's lead. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We need to go back and really understand what God intended in marriages, because we have a lot of it really backwards, really backward. Yeah, that's a topic for another night. Okay, I've got some Bible verses here. And interestingly enough, they're the same ones that I used last week, but I thought they fit so well. I love this verse in Proverbs. It is so key that we remember to guard your heart. If someone is talking nasty to you, or someone is blaming you or calling you names, whatever, you don't have to take it. Let me take the timer off. No, shoot. Okay, that's good. All right, here. Sorry. Above all else, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. Protect your inner life, your emotional well-being. Proverbs 4:23. Write it down. Make it on a sticky note. Put it in your car. Put it in your house. Put it in your refrigerator, on your refrigerator, under your bed, on top of your bed, everywhere. Guard your heart. Do not let abuse and negativity inside of it. And then this one I used last week too. Again, whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city without walls. And that verse comes from in the Old Testament, where they had walls around the cities to protect. It was a form of a protection for them. But you don't have rule over your own spirit. That means boundaries. That means no, it's not allowed. Abusive language, taking advantage of, blaming, trying to guilt, trying to shame me, all of that, it's not allowed. It's not allowed. Love that proverb. Thank you so much. So yeah, there we have them. Let's repeat them. And boy, I tell you, if you can get that mind shift right, it just gives so much peace, because you get to the point to where you say, nope, doesn't work for me, without feeling guilt, without saying, oh, I should have, it would be okay. I could be nice. I could cooperate. No. You need to learn this balance. You need to learn these boundaries. So what do you need to shift? You need to shift being compliant and being cooperative. You don't have to. And I say that because I think some of you need to hear it and give yourself permission. I don't have to be cooperative with him or her. I don't have to be compliant with him or her. Because as you go through this process of divorce, you are establishing some new rules. If you have children and you continue to have to deal with each other, you are developing these new rules now. Things are changed, but you're developing the rules. Do it in your favor. Do it for yourself. Again, protecting your heart, setting up those good boundaries, and deciding, how do I want to react here? Stopping, pausing. How do I want to react here? How do I need to react here? And then being aware, what am I allowing into my mind, my heart, and soul? What am I allowing? And what do I need to stop allowing? That's why dealing with the facts, being direct and brief, is going to be your best friend. You're not going to give explanation. You don't have to. You're going to be biff. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So I hope that these have been of help to you, because I know it can really help your sanity if you follow these guidelines. If you start that mind shift of, okay, I don't have to comply with this person. I don't have to cooperate with this person. I am going to wait. I'm going to pause and decide how I'm going to react. And I'm going to be the one who decides what enters into my mind, heart, and soul. I'm going to decide that. Not someone else that's going to tell me. If you're still with me, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I hope it's been very helpful. I hope indeed it has. So we're going into week 3 on the group. There's still room for you if you want to join us. So connect with me for a registration form. Don't forget your free download, and just reach out if you're needing assistance in getting through the many, many hurdles and landmines of going through divorce. It's tough stuff. Most importantly, take care of yourself. Please be compassionate to yourself and take care of yourself. This is rough stuff. This is a trauma. It's called a trauma for a reason. Take care of yourself. Be kind, be tender to yourself as you go through the trauma of divorce. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma and after the trauma of divorce. Have a good evening.